Now red light's on.
All right, I think we're live.
I'll call to order the December meeting of the Park and Recreation Board. I guess we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We did not have a meeting in November, and we did not have a quorum for our October meeting, so we still need to approve the minutes from our September meeting, which I think were passed out. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Recreation report, Recreation Community Programming Department.
Sure. Well, a couple things. First of all, I had handed out a number of different items, as you can see. One is our promotional magnet that basically showcases all the events that'll run for the first half of 2018. So if you take a look at that, it's real nice. We handed those out actually Saturday night of Santa's delivery.
Nice and heavy.
Nice and heavy, of course. So it basically features a lot of the highlights that we have coming up in early 2018. We'll turn around in July and we'll have a second one that'll go out for the second half of the year. But some of the key things to point out on there, of course, Radnor Day Camp is going to open registration. Our electronic registration online will open on January 8th. And then if you look on down to June 2nd, we have the Emlyn Tennell statue unveiling, which actually ties in with the card pack that I had handed out to you. The Sports Legends of Delaware County had been leading over the last couple of years the production of those to actually parallel, of course, the statue unveiling and a lot of the press and information they've been trying to put out about Emlyn Tennell, because one of the questions people still ask about Emlyn Tennell is, what is that? They don't know who is that, and one of the biggest charges they've been leading is trying to dispel that so people understand and know who Emlyn Tennell is and his whole history. And obviously with his ties back here to Radnor, the statue that's going to be unveiled right down here at the Township building is really going to be a major event. So if you're around, Andy, I know you're leaving us in December, but definitely want to see you back for that one if you can make it. It's really going to be a big event. I know members of the NFL and lots of different sports organizations are being invited to come. Lots of notables throughout the country. So we're going to be planning a pretty large-scale event that'll be here. It'll be preceded by a luncheon that'll happen over at the Radnor Hotel for the donors. And then the plan is, of course, we'll be probably busing people over here. We'll have some bleachers set up, and it'll be a really big to-do. So we'll look forward to that coming up in 2018. And then, of course, some of the normal ones that are there throughout the year. June 2nd.
Saturday.
My kid's wedding.
So there's going to be notables here.
And just the other highlight really is going to be, we're going to bring Night at the Ballpark back at Enke Park. I know that was on hiatus last year just due to a lot of other events that were going on right around that time frame and other projects. Last year what we did in place of the Night at the Ballpark was the Wiffle Ball Classic. It was a little bit of an initiative that was led by a resident here in town, Jim Sears, whose children are very active in a lot of the local sports organizations, and his son has Down syndrome, and he used this event as a way to fundraise basically money for Delaware County's Special Olympics organization. So we worked really closely together through that, and this year the goal is that we're going to combine those two events. So those are the highlights on the magnet, and if you would like some more of those, we have them over there. Right now we're continuing to push the rest of those out so they get into everybody's hands, because that's really important,
Tammy,
the visibility.
there was a couple guys at the Radnor Has-Beens dinner that were in his class.
Okay.
Full, so if you want me to, I can try to get the people that are still around.
That would be great. That would be great.
I'll contact the Has-Beens.
I think you should talk to the boosters too.
Yeah, Has-Beens and the boosters, yeah, but.
The Sports Legends of Delaware County has been really working closely with the district.
Right, and the booster club, the Has-Beens gave our mailing list to somebody.
To probably Jim Bankowski.
Somebody, yeah, and they don't do that. So
Okay.
we voted at our last, it wasn't really a meeting, it was a dinner, and we said, sure, that would be great. And one of the guys that was there, I remember him talking, he graduated in 42 also.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
amazing.
hopefully he'll still be around.
Well, if you get a chance, open up the pack and take a look. I mean, there's a lot of fascinating facts about Enlentonell. As a matter of fact, I just learned recently that I believe it was the Coast Guard is naming a ship, a cutter, after him.
Right, yeah.
And there's also a gymnasium out off the coast, I believe, of San Diego. There's an island out there, I believe, where part of the Coast Guard bases, and they named a gym after him at one point in time. So the gentleman that's been responsible for a lot of that is going to be coming, of course, and he'll be one of the dignitaries at the unveiling.
And Mark Dominic's uncles, they played with him.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll have to talk to
We'll
Mark
get
about that.
Get Mark to give us a speech.
Yeah. So that's really exciting and something great to look forward to in 2018. I know we can't wait to be a part of that. It's been a long time coming, too. So some of the other highlights, I know I also had handed out a copy of the brochure to you. That's our winter and spring 2018 brochure. It's about 99.9% completed. There's a few things that we were waiting on today, but I wanted to go ahead and get a first draft copy there out to you guys. It's going to probably go online on Monday. We're just waiting for a couple last minute pieces with preschool t-ball, and I think we have a spring preschool basketball program that'll go in there, but it's just about complete. So if you're talking to anybody, if they're looking for it, Monday it should be posted online in its entirety, so we're real excited about that.
I'm impressed with your abilities here.
Yeah, no
Good,
kidding.
that Julie Wendell.
Some of those pages are constantly under construction, so
Yeah.
we try to be on top of it,
Yeah.
and once the updates are in there, we'll make
Right,
sure that those
right.
changes are made. So I know we haven't really met with a formal meeting, I don't think, since September, but we've had a lot of great things that have been going on, and I just wanted to show a little bit of a depiction about some of the great things that happened in October. We had the fall harvest, as you guys know. It's one of the biggest events that takes place at the Willows. It was very successful again. It was a very nice day. It was a very warm fall day, and we had what we dubbed close to 5,000 people. You know, we try to keep track as best as we can, but it was amazingly popular, and once again, just is another staple event that continues on every year here in the township. We also then the week later we had the Jan Berenstein plaque dedication. I'm sure you all remember Lynn Ellis, on behalf of the Radnor Historical Society, had came to us to lead that effort. There's a picture of her up there in the upper corner. We had another amazing fall day. It was, I think, 80 degrees, 85 degrees. It's actually quite warm. And you don't see the magnitude of the people that attended, but the park was filled with so many people that day. I mean, there were hundreds of people at the park that day. We had a program going on, people were using the playground, and a lot of folks came over to the plaque dedication. It was something very, very special, and it really gave an opportunity to talk a lot about Jan Berenstein and obviously the efforts and her contributions that she's made. And the wonderful plaque is over there. And it really was a special event. The kids enjoyed it. That's Tracy and I dressed up as brother and sister bear. I'm brother bear, and it feels like about 115 degrees in that costume. And then Officer Kyle Hand, who is on the right there, it was his first event, and he got an opportunity to read a Berenstein Bear book to all of the kids over on the bleachers near the ball field. So it was a special day. Definitely a very unique event. In November, we had our inaugural Mother-Daughter Princess Tea Party. This is an event that really didn't get a whole lot of marketing exposure because it actually sold out within 24 hours of being available. Mm-hmm. So this was the product of a partnership that I had solicited with the Saturday Club. We had sat down to talk about, what are some of the things we could do together about a year ago. And we had a whole bunch of different things on the slate that were possibilities. And lo and behold, came the inaugural Mother-Daughter Princess Tea Party, which was an amazing event. Like I said, it sold out in 24 hours. We had a variety of different partners to the event. We had a special photographer that was with us, Allison Cornell, so she took pictures at the event of all the mothers and all the daughters, very similar to what we do for Daddy-Daughter. And we had Taste of Britain down from the Eagle Village shops. They got involved. We solicited them to see if they were interested in a partnership, and they actually contributed at a very significant low cost. All of the wonderful desserts that you see over there on the left side. They also contributed tea sandwiches and the tea, scones, all kinds of great things to have available for the mothers and the daughters. We had two princesses, actually you can see them in the background of the picture up there in the upper right. They attended the event to do an actual princess show. So I believe that's Belle, and I'm sorry, I'm not a princess.
Is that you again, Tammy?
That's not me again. I'm not one of the princesses, but I forget the name of the other one. It's Belle, and I forget the other one. But
That's right, you have a son.
I have a son, and I was a tomboy growing up, so I apologize. But the event was really, really held in high regard, and everybody can't wait till we do it again next year. So it's definitely one that we want to bring back. In the center, you can see there was a special teacup that we had designed with the mother-daughter and the Radnor Township logo and griffin on there. And I have to attribute a lot of the decorations to Tracy Hardos in our department. I think she really went down to the finest detail with everything. So it was really special. So that was on November 12th. And then on November 25th, we had the Garrett Hill tree lighting, which, Chris, I know I saw you there. Bill, I ran into you there. It was very, very exciting. I know everybody had a great time. We had a visit from Santa Claus, of course. There he is in the upper right. That's Bud Highland, one of our Public Works guys. And
Bud does it all.
We also, he does. He was with us for Santa's, too. And we had members from, there's a group with Radnor High School, Pro Musica. They're a club group down in the lower right. You can see the picture of them. They came out to actually sing carols, because last year we did a fail of a job of it. So we needed some professionals to come out to do some of the caroling, and everybody had a great time. And I know the tree looks really beautiful over there at the park with the improvements. There was a video, but I don't think I'm connected to the internet, so unfortunately it's not going to work. I apologize. Santa's delivery last Saturday night, despite the snow and the icy conditions, was an amazing success. We had 5 Santa motorcades that went throughout the township, so 5 motorcades that had about 5 township vehicles and 5 different engines. Radnor, Bryn Mawr, Berwyn, Broomall, and Sweetland, which all were on board with us last year as well. This is our 5th year doing
Malvern
it.
too, didn't
I'm sorry?
Malvern.
No, Malvern was not with
Okay.
us. So, for some reason, when I go into presentation view, I don't know, it was like putting all the other stuff on the side. So that's why I have it in this view, so it looks a little differently. But you can see the growth. So this is basically the trend since 2013, when we had the inaugural event on how well Santa's delivery has been received. So if you take a look at the total number of gifts, back in 2013, we were at 377. This year we were at 1,102. So it's just been amazing, amazing popularity. I think that's about 200% growth in the program.
I heard some people were actually having parties at their house, so there were multiple kids
There were. So we had several actually that were like that. So a lot of folks have known the annual event is coming back, and they actually they put their holiday parties together around our event and Santa coming to visit. So some of the households featured 5, 10 families and 30, 40 gifts.
Yeah.
So they were very, very large stops. But this particular event is, without the intense collaboration of all the staff and all the volunteers. I mean, we have members of the Citizens Police Academy that help us, the police department, obviously the fire companies, members of our staff here come in and they help out. It's really become a great tradition.
You had Don and Lisa both there.
I think Dawn was out on an engine, and
Yeah,
I know
Lisa
Lisa
was
was
too.
on my route too. So so commissioners joining us as well. I know that I have a secret slide coming up here in 1 minute. Let me just kind of highlight on some of the great pictures from the night. I'll to. This was the drop-off day, and
Wow.
if you could spot the individual there on the front with what appears to be a YMCA shirt, that's Pat
Is that
Gillen.
Pat? Yeah.
So that's what happens when you show up and you actually come in the building to say hello, we put you to work. So Pat joined us on drop-off day, which is basically 3 hours of parents just cruising in and cruising out of the loop, dropping off gifts. We have a whole brigade system on how everything comes in. It gets labeled, it gets zoned, and then it goes into a conference room that turns into a storage room, basically, of 1,000+ gifts. So it's a very regimented process that we go through to make it happen. So those are some of the highlights, really, that made fall just another epic fall for us. I mean, we also had the trick or treat and the Radnor Run, which were peppered into there as well, keeping us busy. We also been gearing up for Daddy Daughter. The registration opening for that, the online registration opening, is on January 3rd. So I just bring that up because if anybody is looking to register for the Daddy Daughter dance, which will be at the Radnor Hotel once again, I think last year it sold out in like 2 days. So very, very popular. We also, this year, we had 2 Saturdays ago, we had our New York City trip. So I don't know if you remember, but the last 2 years that trip had gotten canceled just due to low enrollment. But we ended up having success this time. Heather ran the trip. We had 37 individuals, and they had a great day. It was good weather. So that was a nice opportunity for us to get that back and get that on the map. We also been working closely with the Radnor Youth Basketball League to get them geared up. Plus, also, you know, so even though the Radnor Youth Basketball League has the grades 3 to 12, we're still running the preschool components for the 3 and 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, of course, and then we have the dedicated hoops clinic that, again, still falls under our purview for the 1st and 2nd graders. So we've been coordinating pretty closely with the organization because there's some overlaps in gym time at both the RAC and a lot of the school district facilities too. So I know that's going to be kicking off. Well, the leagues, I know, I think they kicked off actually last weekend. Games will be kicking off at the beginning of the year, but folks can still register, of course, if they want to, and I think we'll be able to slot into some teams if needed. So it's been pretty popular. I know I had talked to Andy earlier in the week. He had asked if I just give a little bit of an update on how the Champions program has been going. So this was the Challenger programming that we had been approached by Kathy Mayer and her Committee for Special Education to start to run back in July of 2016. It has evolved into what's been branded as the Radnor Champions programming. Just they think the organizations kind of wanted to get away from the Challenger sort of connotation. So that program's been branded as the Champions. And these are just some images from some of the pictures or from some of the programs that we've had. We had the inaugural program, if you will remember, back in winter of 2017. Then we had a spring wiffle ball program that we followed up with. And those are just the participation numbers that we had. We also had the Wiffle Ball Classic event that we had during the summer. Although it wasn't specifically for special needs individuals, it was obviously a benefit working on their behalf. And then we had our basketball program this year in the fall, and we're going to be holding a multi-sport program coming up in, I think it's going to start in January, mid to late January. I believe there's a flyer that's actually in our brochure on that. I know Heather was working on that with the Radnor Committee for Special Education this week.
What was the basketball program in the fall this year?
Okay, so originally we had it in the winter because a lot of the folks that participate in the programming, they also participate in Upward's program. And Upward last year didn't have a program in the winter, so we had a program in the winter, and everybody kind of gravitated towards that, had a lot of fun. Then looking into this year, Upward came back, had their program again in the winter, so we didn't want to overlap with them. And we know they still liked our programming as well and still voiced, interest in participating in Radnor's program. So we decided to have it in the fall. It also helped us out with managing the gym time too, because it gets tough come December. But we can make it work, which is why we're going to make the multi-sport program work as well. So those programs have been very, very well received. So I wanted to take a moment tonight to kind of highlight those. I know, Andy, you had asked about how it had been going, so I certainly wanted to focus on it a little bit.
And there's discussion about extending it with Radnor Soccer understand. I don't know how that, Dave Knapp was telling me that they want to try to implement something like that.
Right. So we've had conversation with both soccer and Radnor Way Little League, so Radnor Soccer Club and Radnor Way Little League respectively, and I know both have interest in starting their own programming. So we've put them in touch with Kathy Mayer, and we've kind of said, you know, you guys can go and start it. Just coordinate with us so we can promote it and get behind it and share resources so we can try and make it successful and just continue it going. I know we've been able to develop a really solid base of volunteers and staff, which have helped to keep the program successful and keep the parents happy. I know that they have a lot of involvement, a lot more involvement in this program than they do in some of our others. And I know that helps us because it helps us deliver on what they're looking for.
What about that? Have you got a good response in terms of high school volunteers from the, in the fall, and then also what you have going now?
We have. So we've had a couple of different bases of volunteers. I know we have the high school boys and girls teams come out and help us. We also just have some students and within the school districts. I know in Conestoga, there's a young man from the Haverford School who's been helping us out a lot, as well as Radnor. So we continue to try and work closely. I know we've been in touch with the Best Buddies program at the high school and continue to build the synergy with them as well. So I feel like our response has been positive. The volunteers are great, and they really add so much to it. So we can't do it without having a good, solid group of people being there to support the kids.
Excellent.
So that about sums up events and programming for fall. By way of facilities, I know one of the things I just wanted to make you guys aware of is that we've been having some pretty consistent issues at the RAC with leaks, with water leaks.
When you say RAC, you mean Sulpizio
Radnor
Gym?
Activity Center, sorry.
Sulpizio.
Sulpizio Gym.
Right.
We've had 3 incidences where we have had to have emergency repairs to the facility, so we've been trying to keep a close eye on that. And I know I have a firm that's going to come out and do an evaluation, so we can see.
Roof related or
Roof
wall
related. Roof and so I had someone come out and do an evaluation, like a preliminary evaluation, not an extensive evaluation, and they kind of described it where some of the HVAC units are located. There's some leaks within those areas as well as the flashing. So I guess the roof kind of has a pitch to it. They call it like a pitch with like crickets through it. I had to Google it because I wasn't sure what that meant, but it was like kind of the way the roof stabilized. But so when where the roof is pitched and the water's coming down, it's going into areas that are like drainage systems basically, and somehow it's coming in through those areas. So, but there's multiple issues. So that's why we're actually going to be having next week, we're going to have a full extensive evaluation done on it so we can fully understand the magnitude of what needs to be done for repair or replacement. So
now here's a question for you. Since we rent it, I'm talking about we being the township now. So you're
lease. Yeah,
You
we lease it.
You lease it.
We lease it and we.
Who's going to end up paying for it?
We're on the hook. The township's on the hook.
You guys, are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, So even though the school district still holds the insurance on the building,
Pig and a poke.
we're responsible for
Everything.
everything. Yeah.
Our lawyers are like.
I know we had some discussions about maybe looking at that agreement again at some point. I know
Might be
that.
worthwhile. I mean, it's for the same things. I mean, sometimes, like for instance, I don't know where our roofing systems are, but every once in a while, economy of scale. Because
Definitely.
we do a lot more roofing than you guys do, I would think. So we do have some, even if you were to consider some of the people that we use, that when it goes out for bid, talk to our guys and say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think right now we're trying to get an idea of what's the scope of the problem, and can we engage a repair that is sustainable for a good period of time versus.
Floor damage, the new floor?
No. We've been lucky. We've been lucky because our users have seen the issue and have addressed them. So I know one time it was Bob Nicholas in there. I mean, who better of a person can you have to find a leak than him? And it was one of our other vendors on the other, and then the other one was one of our staff members who found it, but I guess found it a good time so that there's nothing that we could see that was damaging. So that's a good thing. I had an opportunity to meet with the new leadership of Radnor Little League, because Bill is no longer involved, I believe, or he's stepping away. Maybe not completely away, but a portion of the way
On the board,
away.
but stepping away from day-to-day responsibilities.
So Kent Silver is taking over as commissioner, and Ted McWilliams, of course, is the president. So I had an opportunity to sit down with them and talk to them about some of their long-range plans and things that they're looking to do. Some of their more immediate plans that they're looking at now is moving the fencing in at Enki. So I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago we moved the fences back because there were new Little League standards that had been put forth. Well, now that the bats have changed, I guess there's a new standard for bats that causes them to not hit the ball as far. They want to move the fences in. So
More home runs?
I guess.
Notices happen after.
But this is a priority for them, so they are attempting to move quickly on the project. I know they met with a fence contractor already. One of the big requests I had was just a warning track, because if we're moving it in, let's put a warning track in. And I don't know the performance of these bats, so, because I know
No
my
one
son's a
does.
Little League player as well, but I know there's a difference. I just don't know how significant it is. So that'll go into effect, of course, this upcoming spring. And then I know they're looking to turf the inside of the batting cages, so that's another project that we're going to keep looking at with them. And once I have more details, and when I know they're ready to go into contract with someone, and I'll be sure to review what those details are with the board, just so you guys are aware of what's going on. I can real quick on the park projects. I know it's an agenda item, but there really hasn't been a whole lot of activity after Clemacrone Park, but the biggest has been Petrie Park. So even though it's a tiny park, I think it's quarter acre barely, we actually had some renovations that took place there just recently, and we had installed and replaced the seesaws that were there with something called a wee saw that actually the neighbors had been very instrumental in wanting to have as the replacement part. So as you can see, it's kind of like a seesaw, but it's more like a spring-loaded wee saw. So 4 people can sit on it, and in addition, a child can actually sit in the center portion. So if you get a chance, stop over and take a look. The park it's a small park, but I think these renovations have gone a long way, and the neighbors.
It was heavily used before the renovations, and even more so now.
And I know the neighbors that I've had a chance to meet with, they're very passionate about the park. I know some of the additional things we're taking a look at is installing a crosswalk and some measures to slow people down, because sometimes that street is used as a cut through. So I know they're reviewing some of the traffic parameters with our police department. And that's
Well, the street
something-
doesn't qualify for speed bumps under our warrants, but it does qualify for a crosswalk. So you make it an elevated crosswalk.
So hopefully that can help.
Too many lawyers.
But the park looks great, and with regards to like Fenimore Woods and Warren Philippone and Beauconnor, we're continuing to try and put the bid together for a lot of those projects to get those moving in the new year. So I know those will definitely be ones that will be coming before you with more information and more updates as we reconvene, of course, in January.
Tim, good.
I was going to say, do you want to introduce our new board member?
Sure.
Julia.
Temporary.
She says she's on a temporary assignment.
I made requests, but.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So hi, I'm Julia Bonenberger. I'm a school board member.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
You guys better introduce yourselves.
Oh, I'm Chuck. How you doing?
I know.
Bill
Chuck.
Renfrey.
Hi, Bill.
Chris Campbell.
Hi.
Hi, Andy Santillo.
Hi, and Mary Coe. You're my neighbor, right?
Yep.
And I know you.
Yes, indeed.
I think you know me too.
And I know you.
Oh,
She's a
welcome.
good pickleball player. Don't take her on.
She's legit.
Thanks for coming and welcome, no matter how temporary or non-temporary it may be, so.
This is Andy's.
Last day. so-
Yeah.
You don't have to remember my name, so.
You're welcome.
Well, Tammy, thanks for the update.
Before we move on, Andy, any update on Tanel?
The only update I have on Tennelle is I had prepared 2 buildings. So I'm assuming you mean the Comfort Station development, backward
Correct, yes.
development.
Apologies.
Which is, if you recall, is one of the items that was included in the bond from 2015. So there are 2 designs that I had looked at with certain members of Radnor Wayne Little League, and at this point, I think the board is taking a little bit more of an interest in reviewing that, because we just want to make sure that what we design for there meets the needs of everyone. But before I understand the needs of Little League and can incorporate those, we have to make sure it fits on the site, because that's another key piece. So as soon as we can identify the building and the footprint of the building, because we are looking at prefabricated comfort stations, then we can take a look at it within the context of the site plan to see how it will situate itself. So hoping to get that out to bid, early in 2018. That's the goal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks for the update, and, excellent season of activities, Tammy, and many of those, I think almost all of those were ones you brought on as part of you sort of were the initiator of all those over the years, and so, I think it's a great success. I know a lot of parents were very pleased about the Santa Claus drop-off, the fall, the Willows fall day and everything, so great job on that, and I don't think we can sort of let Bill get off that easy for thanking him to all his dedication with Radnor Wayne Little League.
Thank you.
I got more emails from you last spring than I did my wife, so I think, but it's a thankless job, but thank you for all your efforts on that. It's greatly
Thank you.
appreciated.
It's my pleasure.
Then why don't we go down to reports of other boards, I guess, school board, any report?
Not really.
Okay.
We do have new leadership, so we have Lydia Solomon is our president and Linda Stein is our vice president. Susan, yeah, I'm sorry, I get my Lindas and Susans confused here. So we're putting together new committees, so that's why Julie here may be temporary or may not be, I'm not sure. But we look forward to working together with the township, and especially in joint efforts in the places that they rent, and at least we should be a good landlord. So we'll revisit some of that, I'm sure.
Excellent. Board of Commissioners?
A lot of things going on. The budget, one of the things we included in the budget was $1.86 million for Willows. The group, that 501 that's formed, they got $1 million gift. So that gives us enough funds to do all the renovations, but not add the big room that they were talking about putting on.
The million is in addition to the 1.86?
Yeah. And then, the capital budget was funded, so things that were in there for parks are still in there. The Radnor Trail extension, we did not get the grant we were in for, but it was pretty exciting because Elaine got a personal letter from one of the DCED, or I forget which state organization, essentially saying, if we can find the money, we're going to still fund you. And if not, you're number 1 next year. You don't even have to change your application. So that's pretty exciting. The price for the viaduct, whatever you want to call it, is coming in a lot higher than anyone expected. It was supposed to be $400,000. It's up around $900,000. So we're looking at some alternatives to make it. The reason is it's pretty big, so the equipment can go through there to actually construct the trail. So we're looking at other ways to access the trail. There's a family that lives adjacent to the trail that's let us go through their property in the past, so we'll talk to them again, see if they'd be willing. There's a trail walk Monday
I think so.
Yeah, Monday.
for the Ardrossan Trail. So if anybody's interested in that, that's starting to pick up some steam. TAP is at the point that they've got some construction drawings, and we had a meeting scheduled today that got canceled. Must have been that deep snow. I don't know is I had to get up to be here for a 9 o'clock meeting and it was canceled. When you're retired, you don't appreciate it. So, but I think the big news is that so far we continue to fund that whole parks program that you folks put together.
Mhm.
And my goal is to keep going that way.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Any other reports? I think, as a layman, I think Claire was attending Shade Tree, I think.
She did.
Yeah, so, all right. And then, do you have anything further for the old business in terms of the update, or is that it?
No, just unless anybody has any questions on any of the projects. Bless you.
Thank you.
I guess why don't we just go down to public participation? We usually don't have many members of the public here, so is there anything you want to add?
I can't hear you.
Do you have anything you want to add or any comments?
No, I just, one of the reasons why I wanted to attend is I've been a longtime member of the Odorisio Park area, and I saw the new park and I was like, well, how do we get one of those? And so I thought that by at least coming to see what the board is working on and what the direction is that they're going, and trying to like hear and understand how things work and what's needed in order for, you know, us to make some progress in that direction would be the first step. And so I contacted the department just to find out when the meeting was and what the order of things were. So really my first step is to just observe you guys and just to understand how things work, and how to get things done and what are the possibilities. My mom and my family have been like next door neighbors to the park since it was there. So there's a heartfelt commitment. For the last 10 years, with the exception of last year, we've done a Highland Avenue reunion where everybody kind of comes back just to, you know, reconvene and that type of thing. And I realized that the composition of the community is a lot different than it was when we grew up there. So I'm not real sure what their capabilities are of sitting at the table with you guys and trying to get things done. But I also know what I bring to the table, so I could kind of sit here and get some observations and understanding and then see what I need to do as, you know, a mediator or what have you, just to, you know, try to improve things. I understand that the, you know, field now is Daneo, right? It's the baseball field has been dedicated or what have you. So I'm just trying to, you know, understand how the park is divided up. I know a lot of people use it now for the sledding and, you know, things like that. But I know that the community probably could benefit from having, you know, more activities that bring them out of, I guess, the apartments, if you will, and into the community. That's what we had when we grew up. You know, I was so late and wrong. Like, do you guys still do stuff in the summer? And they're like, nah, we don't do that. But those are the things that, you know, used to bind us together as a community, being able to come to, you know, the park. The park was always the safe haven where you could go and meet with friends or participate in activities that you may not have in your home, but you could always bank on being able to find something in the park. So my purpose for being here was really just to like kind of be like the bird on the fence and just kind of watch you guys and, you know, get a better understanding of how, you know, things work and see where we can kind of begin conversations. I know my mom's extremely concerned. She's been there for forever, and her intent was to come tonight. She couldn't, but we still came, you know, on her behalf, just to, you know, like I said, get an understanding. So thank you for, you know, having us and, you know, giving me an opportunity to speak.
No, thanks for coming out. And I would say I would encourage you to keep coming out.
Okay.
We just sort of some background. Each of us were assigned different parks to sort of be stewards or sort of point persons so that they know what those parks are. Claire Gurton is the one who's assigned to that. Claire Gurton is assigned to that park. She's not here tonight.
Okay.
But we, in terms of going through the capital budget process, we went and we visited all those parks and would sort of send recommendations to the township staff of what we thought were sort of immediate, got to do something right now, but those are usually minor things that need to be fix. Intermediate things to be done in the next year or two, and then things, if we had all the money in the world, what we'd love to see. I know in the budget that there is money, it looks like allocated for a comfort station at Oricio coming
Okay.
up this coming year. But, coming here and starting to be, this is, I think, the good starting point for being part of that conversation and what the community wants. I know with the Clement Crone, there was several community meetings where residents were saying, hey, this is what we would like to see here, this is what we can do, and then that was sort of, I don't know if that was before there was already money, an idea that there was gonna be a lot of stuff put in there, it was before, so it was to get a feel of what the residents would have liked to have seen there and what was realistic, I know, and that sort of lasted several months before it became what you see now over there, so, but I'm glad you guys all came, and I think this is a good first step for what you wanna try to do.
Okay.
What you might think about doing also is with Clement Crone and the park up there, I don't know if you've been up there or not to see.
So yeah, I can't really hear you.
I'm sorry, Clement Crone just got finished as a new project was done on that park.
Okay.
Up off of Conestoga. You don't know where that is, right, Clement Crone?
No.
Up near Garrett Hill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you wanted to come
We
here
want
because you
people to see
saw
that
that.
every-
I did.
That's right.
So-
I didn't know
Not
the
just
name of it,
Sunday.
but I just read it.
So,
I'm like, oh, wow.
They had a very active community neighborhood
Right.
that put together, and talked about plans and advocated for it. And John, you know probably the history as well as anybody, but it took time
Right.
to do, but the neighbors got behind it as a group, and they interacted with the board, they interacted with the Parks and Rec board, they interacted with the staff, and gradually moved that along and got that done. So you might want to reach out to, I think, the Bookers.
Yeah,
Patty
Patty
Booker,
Booker.
there's a group, and we can get you all the information on that.
Okay.
And talk to her and find out how they did it, what they did, and the process.
Barker, yeah.
Barker, sorry. Booker. That's different.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah, me confused
Booker,
here.
Barker, sorry.
I'm glad I wouldn't be.
Not as bad as Lisa and Susan, though, you know?
The
So-
other thing, you have a new commissioner starting
Jake, right?
January 2nd.
Yeah.
Jake Abel.
Okay.
Reach out to him.
Okay.
Part of the way things get done is staying on your commissioner's back.
Okay. Thank you.
But these meetings are always open, so, we encourage you.
Always welcome.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, thank you very much for coming.
If you don't mind, what's your name?
My name is Sharifa Brown,
Okay.
and I'm actually a Radnor High School graduate, third generation.
Oh, wow.
So,
Sam Brown related?
Actually, so my family are the Moores. You guys may not know them. My uncle's Russell Moore. You
Russell
guys-
Moore.
Yes.
I went to school with Russell.
Okay.
Sure. It was told. Very good
Yes,
guy.
yes.
Yeah.
Lives,
Uh-huh.
right, almost right next door
Yeah.
to the park. So I am his niece.
Okay.
His mom, and my mom is his sister. But like I said, my family has, been a part of the community for a long time. And I still have a fondness, for the park. And I've done a lot of community programs in and around the city. So I felt like, I've worked to organize some things in the community for a few years. I didn't feel like anybody else was here at the meeting because I wasn't seeing the progress
Right.
that I wanted to see.
Right.
And like I said, my mom is extremely concerned, and so I figured, I would partner with her to, see what we could do and how we could, organize. I still have a lot of people in the community that I could pull together, but I first got to know, how things get done.
Yeah, no, I think, contacting your commissioner, but also,
Commissioner.
Chris and I attended some of the community meetings they had over in Garrett Hill, and there was always on average like 30 people there, and, they were very much hand-in-hand part of the process. So I think having that sort of base of people together was, I thought, very beneficial to them in the process, so.
One
Thank
of
you.
the things I just wanted to point out, my name's Tammy Cohen, I'm the Director of
Hi.
Recreation.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
One of the things I wanted to point out, so even though, we're kind of looking to 2018 and we have a capital plan where I know Andy had mentioned that, we have the restroom building that sits within that, so we're going to begin looking at, putting, replacement restroom within the park. But one of the other things that we look at are the out years, 2019 and plus. So So even though those years, there's placeholders, so I just wanted to point out that Odoriccio isn't a park where it's just, okay, you know, there's nothing there, there's no prospect of projects. There are actually in excess of $1.5 million in projects that I know we've been looking at over the last few years that we want to see get done. Are they exactly what the neighborhood wants to see? I'm not sure. That's where I think those conversations and that relationship can, you know, grow.
Okay.
And we can learn that. But just to tie in with what these guys are saying, like, to get the funding, we need to get the commissioner's support. So
Okay.
that's kind of where, I mean, having the conversations about what we want to see, that can happen here, but to get that funding, that's really where those conversations have to happen. But I just wanted to make sure you knew that, like, Odoriccio Park isn't a park that's sitting out there that we're not thinking of. Because we
Okay.
concentrated, you know, just because we concentrated so much time on Clemacrone. In fact, Odoriccio was one of the projects that we wanted to see happen parallel with that, but just because the funding became limited, it was one that got broken down more into like a piecemeal fashion of how the improvements would take place. But there's nothing to say that all those projects that are sitting there in like a 5-year span can't be lumped into like one comprehensive project.
Okay.
Similar to what happened at Clemacrone. Because the
Okay.
way you reacted about Clemacrone, we want to do that about all the parks. We want to hear that reaction about all of them. So that's definitely important.
Okay.
So
Can
we
she get a
appreciate-
copy of that to see what's at least planned for now?
Absolutely. I actually have a copy of, this is a copy of the plan. So this is the 5-year plan. This is
Okay.
actually, the board just received this tonight. This is what was approved by the Board of Commissioners on Monday night
Okay.
at their Monday meeting.
Page 291, there's about 4 or 5 pages of
Okay, and
Odoriccio.
then, so what it'll do is it'll break down by part,
Okay.
like a description of what the thought is of what needs to be replaced or improved.
We're seeing
So
that.
if you want to take a look
Thank
at that,
you.
you can feel free to call me too if you want
Okay.
to talk about it.
Okay.
I'll give you one of my cards.
This is actually very impressive, Tammy, this presentation that you have, and for us to be able, as park board people, when someone comes in and then you have all this stuff laid out for us to see. We just got this also today. So I'm very impressed with the
Thank you.
process that you put in place here.
Well, I appreciate the thanks, but I can't do it without the township manager and our finance director, assistant township
Well, you could
manager, Bill
pass
White. I mean, it's definitely a comprehensive effort.
Sure, yeah.
But I know every year we try to work and get that document a little bit more information. I know I always say it's a living, breathing document. It's always changing.
Right.
Well, we have a similar organization, and I'm impressed with this.
Thank you.
Well, if you get a chance, look at the budget book, it's about that thick.
Nah, I don't look at budgets.
360 pages.
I look at my own budgets enough. You guys, I trust you guys. You're doing such a great job here.
It's great until you try to look at that little bitty print.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for coming. So, I guess we need to do a reorganization here for you all for next year. Chris and I thought it would be good, because I think we both benefited from it in the past, of knowing who was going to be the leaders of the Park and Rec Board going into the January, instead of just figuring it out in January, sort of map out goals and whatnot. So we wanted to provide the board the opportunity to vote on next year's leadership now, so that those individuals can sort of take over and hit the ground running. So,
The thing I'm worried about with that is we're missing so many people tonight.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine tabling that if you guys are, so.
Yeah. You never know how many you might get at our January meeting, but I don't know what
I
you
think
guys
if you
think about
mention
it,
that might be, that's on the agenda.
but maybe
you
we
know,
ought to
I
think
mean,
about
people-
tabling it and hoping, and let people know that
Make a bigger
that's-
effort to
to
structure
get
their
over it. I mean,
schedules.
December's a tough month, I think, for people,
Everybody,
generally
yeah.
speaking. I mean,
Well, I think you could open up a little team for the conversation as school board appointees, and this is just me speaking. I don't think it's proper for anyone on the school board to have a official role as a president or vice president of the board. I don't know how you guys come down on it, but we're here to report back to the school, give the information back and forth, and anyway, I would not be interested.
Mhm.
Chris, are you interested?
I'd be interested, but I want to also make sure that other people have an
Oh, yeah,
opportunity
yeah,
to
yeah,
show
yeah. I'm
interest.
just starting the conversation.
Right.
Okay. That might provide some continuity since you've been vice.
Yeah.
Right. Which is,
Not trying to push
no,
volume.
which is fine. I just, Andy and I have kind of always, want to make sure that if there was thought and talk about somebody different, a different voice, a different, continuity is good, but sometimes breaking that continuity up and looking at a different way is good as well. So,
Yeah.
So maybe something we take back and think about a little bit before the next meeting, and is it possible to get a communication out and to encourage all members to try to attend and to think about it ahead of time a little bit. I don't know if somebody else might have interest in being chair of the board, and Sue might have interest in being vice chair, et cetera. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I was just saying, because Andy, I'd like to thank you for what you've done. I mean, I've been on here watching, and, well, I've been part of it also, but watching, and like I said, having a similar organization that we work with, I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I can see how frustrating it can be.
Yeah.
As a board president, sometimes it's frustrating as a board member when
Right.
we push things forward and we think we have some good ideas, and we kind of pushed aside occasionally. But some of the stuff that you pushed through, got through, and I think you did a great job with leading us forward. And I like the way that you're doing things. And Chris, the two of you, I like that. And you guys have passion for what you're doing here. And I think that's something that when I consider who I would like to see in the leadership role, I want to see somebody not only who can do the job, but has a passion that can do it. So,
Thank you.
and I would,
Thank you.
well, continuing this conversation in January would be good for me.
And I agree, certainly, Andy. Thank you very much. I appreciate the passion, but coupled with temperance, which is very important, because it can get emotional here at times. Some of the meetings we have had over the last couple of years have had some emotion, and you've always been a level-headed person that has steered us towards reasonable dialogue on these topics, and your service is very much appreciated.
No, it's been a real joy to be part of this. I getting to know everybody and work with you, and it's really been fun, and it's been I really appreciate everything that you all bring and brought to this, and I've really gotten a lot out of it personally, so I appreciate that. And Tammy, I know you work very hard. And,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We're going to have a ceremonial
Yeah.
burning of the
Yeah.
binder.
Someone's gonna
Might as well take it
Well,
home.
I mean,
Somebody needs that.
Well, I was going to say, I'll say no just so I don't have to carry that.
All I wanted to
book
say
around.
though is I don't think you have to leave.
Well, in
You
all
can
honesty,
stay.
but in all honesty,
Right?
I mean,
Stay
I think you
if
guys.
he wants to.
Terms.
That's it?
Yeah.
So maybe you could leave a year
Yeah.
though and return?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
you can leave
it.
it there.
I don't think
We can
that.
fix it.
I don't think. I don't know
All we
how
have
that'll
to do
go
is
over in the
vote to
Sanso
change it.
household, but I don't think you guys realize how hard Tammy worked. Or maybe you
Oh.
do. I mean, sometimes we get emails from her like midnight, 1 o'clock. She's dressed up as a Bernstein bear. And I can tell you, and I, having seen the improvement of things in my 10 years, is incredible, and the programs have been brought out, and I'm fortunate now that my kids are third and first to hear people talk about what you do. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but I can't do it without your support. And I know we wanted to present you with a plaque tonight, but the plaque certainly doesn't do justice to the thanks that we have and all the time that you've put in. I know, 10 years seems like a really long time, but I know that there's so much that you've put forth. You've dealt with some really sensitive topics. I know there's been some tenuous conversations. I mean, we've dealt with things that people don't want to talk about, like the cell towers and, and you're not, you haven't been afraid, you haven't been afraid to be a leader for this group, and I think that that's significant. Because, so much of that is, you're in the face of adversity, and people haven't always been positive, let's be honest, through the Willows conversations and the Lawrence Lane neighbors and all of those things that have come up. And you know, there's just so much that you've put into it. And one thing that, you know, I can say is that it's genuine from you. I mean, everything from, you know, coming out with your kids and just yourself and a lot of the events and the programs. I know that, you know, both you and your wife have been involved in a lot of things with the Champions program too. And that's all huge, and it's because it comes from your heart. So in no way does a plaque do justice to the thanks that we have for all the time that you've put forth. I mean, it's gone a long way. It really has, and I know that's impacted all of us.
Well, thank you.
So-
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And one thing I want to say is, Bob, I never saw the township manager at any meetings of ours prior to you coming on board. And I know a lot of times you're coming here after a whole lot of stuff. I mean, we've had meetings, days of deaths of staff members and all kinds of things, and you're here. And I know that before, you know, I didn't even know what, you know, Bayshore looked like. And knowing that you're here and supporting what's going on, it means a lot. And I know it's taken a lot of time from your schedule, and I know it's appreciated by us. So thank you very much.
Thank you for all you, thank you for what you've done in the leadership. And just to echo Tammy's comments, I mean, there's been some tough conversations that you've had and that this group has had, and you know, to marshal through those bond issues. And I know that the conversations that you had, you know, about questioning the need for this committee, you know, and the work that was done. I think you can leave here with great pride that, you know, the bond money got through, got approved, and the project was done. We actually completed a project. Hankey Park get done, you know, to see Clem McCrone get done, to see that there are other projects in the pipeline to get done. I mean, that's something I think you can take great pride in, that, you know, that things are getting done, because I think there was a level of frustration that I think this board was ready to pack it in and say, basically, we're done. Because there was a lot of work and time and effort in that was come about, and you took the role of the leadership role, and you did. So thank you for what you do on a volunteer basis, to do that. So thank you for that. And again, I echo everything Tammy has said. Thank you, and thank all of you for what you do, because it's a huge help for us.
Quick funny story about Clem McCrone Park. My wife is a nursery school teacher over at Bryn Mawr Presbyterian Church, and a lot of the students there, their families are in Lower Marion, and I think a lot of those folks send their kids to that school, have nannies and, you know, things like that. And my wife has had 3 or 4 of the moms come to her and say, I don't know if you know about, but we found this great and it's in a place called Garrett Hill. Do you know where Garrett Hill is? And I was like, yeah, I live around the corner from there. Oh my God, it's a beautiful park, and we take our kids there after school and this and that. So it's, the word's out. It's and they're not just Radnor folks coming; they're coming from all over. So it's a wonderful story.
But it means also everything, all those projects that Tammy works on and her staff are so dedicated to. I mean, you know, Heather was taking phone calls from us at wrestling at like 8 o'clock in Saturday mornings last year because we couldn't get locked in. She's the challenger basketball practice on Sunday. So many of these projects are like the most, besides trash and snow plowing, the most interface they have with the township. And so to have such success and such dedication and people recognizing, you know, what's going on, I think it's such a good marketing thing for the township, you know, despite all the other stuff going on. And I think that that's something that gets lost in the sort of chatter. And so it's you know, it's.
Well, realtors will tell you that right after the schools, the next thing is recreation.
No. Yeah, no. So, yeah.
But I think also, since we're talking about what a great job you guys have been doing, is the private-public partnerships that you've established. Bringing the community businesses into play. When I went up to Bo Connor's Park, and you had the food, you know, the food
Flemings,
vendors there,
Anthony's.
Flemings, and it was all free. It was all free food.
Yeah.
It was like amazing. And you were the one, or you and your staff and everybody, to put all that together. And I try to attend not because it's free food, that's
He's
excellent.
Come on,
singing.
Joe.
He's,
Come on.
he's singing. Don't let him fool
I do-
you.
I-
He's singing too, and he does a
great
fine job of
time at
it.
every event I've ever been to, the cars, the
Yeah,
wheels
those
of
cars,
rain,
yeah.
it's just how the things have been brought together. And it's the people of Radnor, it's the business community, and it's the volunteers, and the leadership that we've had on this board and at the township that I think has been great.
Well, I think what's great too is to see all of you sitting here at functions and at events to participate in. That's huge. To see that you're
Yeah, we have some
involved and that
commissioners
you're
that do
there.
that.
To see that, I mean, that's huge. To be involved and be active because you've got a handle on that. And for us too, is we like to hear the things we aren't doing well. I know it's kind of weird, but we want to hear what we're not doing well because that's how we get better.
I'll tell you
You know, it's
those
great
later.
to say, oh, you're doing great government stuff. We want to hear stuff that, you know, we can improve on or we're missing. Because that's how we get better.
Yeah.
We want to get better at what we do. And we get plenty of the negatives, but I tell you, there are so many people that will say, you know what, have you looked at this, have you looked at that? You know, Onorisio Park, you know, how can we work that? How can we move that forward and that? That's one thing that Tammy's very wired to, and you can see the amount of paper Tammy gives you, the detail. Internally, we know that Tammy's got everything documented to the nth degree, the detail, which is good, because it's all laid out in a plan of where we're going.
Yeah.
And that, which is great, because it's regimented to where we're gonna go, and we're gonna hit it. And I think that's all a big part of it, and again, if we don't have a great school district, I mean, our community, whether we like it or not, people like it or not, schools drive communities. They do.
Oh, they do.
People want good schools, they want good services, and to me, that's just something that, you know, we're gonna continue to keep doing. And through your help and your support, you know, you make us better. You've made us better. So thank you for what you do on a volunteer basis. You put a lot of time in when you've taken the park stewardship over. You make us better because there's things you see that we may not see to that detail. That helps us out, helps our guys out too, because sometimes they don't see the things that you see. Sometimes they bristle and say, oh, they're looking at this. You know what? Take care of it because it's what the public is seeing. So it helps us. It's better. Thank you.
You have a comment?
I just want you guys to know too that your visibility is very good, because I go online and I look at different parks and different, you know, communities, you know, because my grandkids are little, so I'm trying to figure out, like, should they do this or should they go here? Should they go here? And I will tell you that online, you guys look great. Like, you look online and you see all of the activities that are going on within, you know, the township. I don't know what other townships are actually doing, but online you guys are showing up very high on, you know, in terms of different activities for different age groups, for different, you know, I'm just saying, like, I don't know what actually happens, but, you know, if you were to shop around, you would say, yeah, this is where I want to be.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moves.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm not used to being on such pleasant boards.